Hello and welcome back to an architecture tour of Deus Ex Human Revolution. So here we are, back in Hengsha, and if you can remember this building with the funny canopy with the angles and everything, back this way is the car park that we couldn't go into before and now we're going to. And this is a gameplay area, so enemies to avoid and everything else. And it's not particularly interesting architecturally. I mean, it's basically just a car park. Although, I mean, there's a gang down here basically, and the car park is closed. I wonder about this. I mean, you would think that car parking is kind of important. These are the harvesters, by the way, so they're a gang and they've got augments, and that's all I'll say about them. But I guess in this story I don't think people drive cars anymore because, you know, as we said in the first video, I think in this game world they've run out of oil, and so there's no petrol. Or at least for this car park it's obviously not in use because we've got these guys taking over. And there's not actually very much car parking space. I mean, if you look at the ramp there, let's see what's back here. Interesting lights. There's a lot of lights. Not sure why. So this is I don't know what this is meant to be, but they've got some science equipment going on here. And they do have to maintain their augmentation, so they do have some science things and medical things strewn about. So the ramp keeps going down, and if you imagine there's enemies here and there, then you can tell, you know, there's cover, avoid enemies or hide or whatever it is you want to do. And there's like back doors and corridors. And there's holding cells, which is strange because it's meant to be a car park. Although I guess maybe they're like lockers, maybe you can lock up your bike or your motorbike or something, I don't know. So this is a medical area. There's a lot of blood over the place, kind of gruesome. There's arms and legs. And then just chilling out, eating noodles. So this area, we keep going back here, and then this is like I guess this is the barracks, or the sleeping area. And there's an office back here again. The fancy lights. I think the fancy lights always indicates an area where there's an important character. Although it seems out of place. I mean, this is all factories and what are these things like that? Pumps and hazardous waste. Wow. It's not even a heater or anything. So the fancy lights do seem out of place there, but I'm not sure why that character has fancy lights, but never mind that. So as you play through the game, you come through the car park, you talk to some people along the way. I don't want to give away too much of the story. And you keep going into sewers, or what they call sewers, even though they don't really function as sewers, they function more like underground walkways. Some guys hanging out. And eventually you arrive at a shipping port. Let's see, we keep going this way. And here's an interesting moment, and one of the only moments in this game that is like this. that. So we came up the ladder and we see that. So we are on the outskirts of the city now, although how we managed to travel that far in such a short time I don't know. But so now we can see the Pangu from the side. You know, we're not right underneath it, and we can start to get an indication of just how big the thing is. Let's try and climb up onto that, get a good view of it. So that's how big it is. And I was talking about how that's the only moment in this game so far where you're basically forced to see something. Because you have to climb up the ladder. There's only one ladder, and it's a very narrow space. So you come up the ladder, and it shows you this view straight away. If you remember, in the very first video of the series I said how Detroit, you know, they don't make you look at the police station front on, and I said that opportunity was missed, in my opinion. Well, here they definitely took the opportunity to show you this very impressive artwork in a way that the player is unable to avoid it. And that's impressive. It is very impressive. Giant metal plate hanging above the old city. Anyway, this is another gameplay area. Although we can look around at the outskirts too. There's a container ship over there, so it's containers. And this, I think, is meant to be an oil refinery. I can't think of anything else it could be. But it doesn't really make any sense because this is a container port, not an oil refinery port. You don't see any oil tankers anywhere. There's an oil refinery over there as well, on the horizon, if you can see that. And those look like offshore platforms. Anyway, let's not jump around too much. So I don't know why there's a refinery here. It seems a bit out of place, when this place is really a container port. You can see there's containers in that direction, and then this, and the refinery is actually too small as well. Like a refinery in real life is quite a bit bigger than that, usually. Anyway, in the game well, again, you avoid enemies, or you kill enemies, or however you want to deal with them. And you make your way to that building over there. Now this is a very open area, so there's a lot of options as to how to go through this. If you remember earlier on, especially in the Highland Park internment camp, remember there was just, you know, a corridor and room and corridor and room. I mean, that was very linear. Although each room, I guess, you have some freedom as to how to get through it. Whereas here, if you come down here a little bit, what are we looking at? No, that's the wrong level, this level. So the whole place is just open. We came in through here, there's a door, so that's a gateway. So you have to come through here, but once you get past this point, you can take any one of a number of paths to get to that building. And there's no, there's no corridors anymore. It's all just one big room. And I guess, at this point in the game, you've gone through so many areas that maybe they expect you to be able to handle a more complicated area, or they even might think that you would expect the areas to become more complicated because you don't want to play the same simple stuff the whole game through. So there's this big open area. So if you want to play a run and gun kind of play style, you can do that. Although you can sneak through that as well. So we've got ships. Is that thing? Wow, that's actually moving. That crane. I didn't even notice it before. Wow, that's amazing. Because you never see that up close. And I can't imagine anyone actually stopping to look at it like this. But they've made the effort to animate that. Wow, that's cool. Anyway, the artwork's pretty good. I'm getting a bit of lag, maybe I should... Okay, that should be better now. So there's this open area up top top, and there's a bit of stuff down here as well. Let's see, is this the wrong number? This is the right place. So if you prefer closer quarters, you can come down here to get from one side of the map to the other. I mean, this is just generic industrial stuff, I guess. A lot of fans, I'm not sure what purpose this serves. Or, you know, what it's meant to portray. So a cargo dock, and the water is just behind these this wall of fabric. I don't know why they don't let you just look out, because that's kind of interesting. You know, I don't know why they chose to make it opaque like that. They didn't make it transparent or make it a chain link fence so you can see outwards. You can see the fires of the refinery. It looks pretty cool from here. The Pangu. Alright, so if you play the game, you would come into the shipping area. Wait, hold on, let me check. So there's doors there for you to move your cargo indoors. And then we have like an interior warehouse. And again, there's enemies here and everything. I guess this would have been a concept artwork area as well. I mean, you can see the color scheme, the yellow and the grey. It's very consistent. Actually, before we go too far, I mean, obviously the Pangu coming out of the ladder, coming up the ladder from the sewers and then looking at the Pangu, that's, I'm pretty sure that was a concept artwork kind of a shot, but let's just try and figure out which parts of these are well designed or well thought out and which parts are not as well thought out. This open area, I think they would have drawn it from like an angle looking down onto it, because it's very difficult to get a sense of how the space is laid out unless you were looking down onto it. Yeah, I think they thought out all of this quite thoroughly. Although maybe they would have designed these as separate elements. They would have drawn that. They might have built the ships as a separate element, and then they might have designed the gameplay area as a separate element, and then put them all together afterwards. I'm not sure, I'm just speculating. I could be completely wrong. But I'm just, you know, I'm speculating that because they don't fit together seamlessly. You know, I mean, as I said before, there's a container ship next to an oil refinery when you would expect an oil tanker next to an oil refinery. In the oil refinery, like, the boundary between that and the game area is kind of abrupt. So just, you know, based on that, I'm speculating that maybe they just made the elements and then put them all next to each other after they've made the things. But I could be wrong. And the color scheme's not entirely coherent as well. I mean, we see the reddish brown there. The sky is yellowish brown. And then down here there's blues and yellows and reds. And there, is that like a little bit of green on that building? So there's all sorts of different colors going on here. And greys and reds and yellows and everything. Whereas, remember, back inside, see, this yellow doesn't really match the other yellow. The brown, that brown doesn't really match that brown. And whereas once you're inside, the color scheme is very consistent. I don't know if you can actually tell like the subtle shades of color in the YouTube video. But once you get in here, so the yellow there matches the yellow there, and it's the same yellow as that. And the light is white, and the crates are white and off brown, and the walls are the same color as the crates and all that, so you can see that the color scheme is a lot more consistent inside here than outside. So that's why I said, you know, it seems like this area was designed as one area, whereas outside it seemed like it was a lot of different pieces put together. Anyway, apart from that, and the view of the Pangu, there's not too much going on up here. And containers and bright lights. So this is basically this area, the shipping port of Hengsha. Where are we going next? Oh, we're going to a research facility next. And I'm wondering if I should tell you where it is, because it might be a spoiler, but then it's not too important to the story anyway. Well, I won't tell you where it is, but let's just say it's a self-contained research facility somewhere in the world. That'll be next. Alright, thanks for watching, hope you're enjoying them. I'll see you in a bit.